Those of you who've been around for a while know that outside of the YouTube channel, I actually run a group on Facebook called Martial Arts Nerds with an exclamation point. And well, that's kind of a free range group for martial artists to just kind of, play and have fun and nerd out for sure. The thing with Facebook is that Facebook is not doing so well, right? It feels like engagement is kind of at an all-time low. It feels like Facebook's becoming a ghost town. And while there are a few members who kind of continually, dedicatedly post things, for the most part, we're not getting the engagement and the conversation that we used to have. Now, some have attributed to that to the fact that we've gotten rid of a lot of the big-time trolls that were just there to start fights. But at the same time, that was too much, right? But we're at a problem now where Facebook itself has become quite censorious, and the nature of martial arts in and of itself often goes against the community guidelines. And it's just because there are things about martial arts and martial artists that are not going to be socially correct, I guess you could say, politically correct. The fact is that we're talking about violence a lot, and oftentimes that skirts the line of what is acceptable on their community guidelines. And the fact that debates get a little heated sometimes with the way that bullying censorship, which is absolute garbage, goes, you basically can't have any real banter between martial artists. Now, look, there's some of it that is outright just, not acceptable for sure. But on the other side, like, we're martial artists. We expect that, you learn how to defend yourself. And that means in the verbal arena that you learn how to have a little bit of verbal jiu-jitsu, as they say. You need to be able to defend your ideas, and you need to be able to say things. And look, it's a whole thing. So to that end, I've had an account on X, formerly Twitter, for years, but I've kind of let it go because it was just a terrible platform, especially for business and everything. But because that's improved, now there's monetization options that I'm hoping will eventually be able to help the school and my career efforts and all of that. I'm not looking to become a social media influencer just to have a supplement to what's already a difficult business. And one of the newer features that they've rolled out very recently is the communities feature. And the communities feature is basically like groups on Facebook. And so I decided to start a new community akin to what we started off the idea with in Martial Arts Nerds on Facebook. But I want it to be taken a little more seriously. So I gave it a slightly more serious title. And I'm officially inviting you guys to come and join, be a part of it. Now, in X terms, right, it is what is called a restricted group, which just means that just like Facebook, in their closed groups, you got to answer a question to get in, and it basically just proves that you're a human and you're trying to enter in good faith. That's all it is. Read the rules and abide by them. There's not a ton of rules, but real quickly, the biggest thing is I don't want much marketing and self-promotion and influencer posting. And I want things to stay more or less on topic. I mean, a little bit of tangential banter is fine, but, it's that. So I'm going to give you guys the link, and you guys can, go sign up on X for the group, and we can start having some fun discussions that are a lot more permissible to be had because freedom of speech is a little bit more upheld there than they are on Facebook. And, clearly YouTube doesn't have things like that and whatnot. And look, it doesn't cost you any money to come be a part of the group or anything. I just want good faith discussion and commentary on the martial arts. And that's really where I'm coming through. So yeah, come and join and have some fun. Welcome to the Palaestra. My name is Solomon, and I run Black Sun Boxing, which is a small Wing Chun MMA gym in the Phoenix Metro Valley in Arizona. I've created this group for a couple of reasons, and one of the biggest ones is that I have a dream for not just my martial arts school and practice, but for martial arts in general. And it's kind of twofold. Number one is that I want martial arts to be much more socially prevalent than it is currently by the statistics that I have access to. Martial arts participation is somewhere between 1 and 3% of the population on average, which is dismally small. And a lot of that is overshadowed by the fact that a lot of the options out there are seen as non-functional, and a lot of the other options out there are seen as a little too maybe bro for the average person. And to that end, I would like martial arts to become kind of an alternative option to something like, say, the Boy Scouts, but for adults as much as for children. That's another one of the big problems with martial arts culture in general, is it's often looked at as a children's thing, much like we look at wrestling in school as a children's thing. We don't look at wrestling as an adult thing. And we see, karate and taekwondo and kempo, which was my initial background, all that stuff is seen as kind of a children's activity. It's not seen as an adult thing. And the adults that take part in such things are generally considered a little off the beaten path and whatnot. And I think that's a shame, because I look at martial arts and training in general as something like a utility, right? Your health and your self-defense and your physical stature. And look, I believe that fitness should be intertwined with martial arts, and it's not. And a lot of the places that try to are woefully unqualified to do so, and it's a whole thing. But if we are to have martial arts be an alternative option for people, both as children and adolescents and as adults, to take part in as an alternative to, say, the Boy Scouts or some other kind of purpose-built social club, a sort of third space that people can meet at and become friends and actually work towards bettering themselves, then we need a paradigm shift in the way that things are done. And to that end, the reason that I chose the term Palaestra for this group is that it goes back to the old classical Greek idea of the gymnasium. Now, here's the thing with the gymnasium. A lot of people think of the gym as a place for just sports. And for certain, classical Greek gymnasiums were actually for sports. And purportedly, they were mostly for adults, right? They were like a sports college. Except that they didn't stay only that. Gymnasiums became a place where philosophers would hang out, where people were expected to learn, for lack of a better term, like the liberal arts. Maybe not the functional stuff. It's not where they'd go to learn farming and tradecraft and things like that. But it's where they would go to discuss philosophy, and poetry was big at the time, and music and things like that, right? So the gymnasium was athletics for sure, but it was also the broader category of the liberal arts. And that is kind of the vision that I've had for a long time on this, is I want to bring back that classical gymnasium culture of like it's a third space for personal development and learning skills. Now, the reason that I chose the term Palaestra is, right, that's the name of the wrestling schools. And so a Palaestra would be a sectioned off space of the gymnasium, or a Palaestra could be on its own, right? There were some standalone Palaestras. And keep in mind, it literally, like, because Pale, right, is the Greek wrestling, and because wrestling is the default combat sport, right? So you name the martial arts gym after that, right? Because that's separate from, say, military drill, going out and learning your spear and shield. But you would also go in there to learn classical boxing too, which Greek boxing is quite different than what we look at today, but still, you get the idea. It was for hand-to-hand combat. It was for the common athletics of the day, which, running and discus throwing, javelin throwing, the things that would eventually become like the Olympic sports. And again, philosophy, crafts, arts, things like that. And that is the kind of culture that I'm looking at. And of course, because I do catch wrestling on top of all the other stuff, Palaestra was a good thing, right? Because I'm reaching back to the classics, not because we're going to recreate the actual Greek culture. That's a fool's errand. There's no reason to do that. But in the spirit of that classical idea of a place for like athletic, martial arts, personal development is exactly what I want it to be, right? And that is something that could become an alternative to something like, say, Boy Scouts. And that's where I want this to come in. And from the beginning of my school, I've used intelligence, strength, skill as kind of like the school motto, right? Because I want people to understand why they're doing what they're doing. I want people to understand that it does take a certain amount of physicality and also, strength of character and all those philosophical things. And then skill, of course, because we are pursuing an actual skill. And even more so to this concept of the classical gymnasium, man, that fits exactly where I want it and where it needs to be. So that is goal number one. Goal number two is a little more personal to me and my gym, but I encourage you to share with me as well. And that is that I kind of want my gym to become kind of, if you're familiar with Starting Strength and Mark Ripito, whatever your personal thoughts on the man are, whatever disagreements you might have with him about training methodology, which there are some very fair criticisms, not debating that. But I kind of want my gym, my school, to become kind of the starting strength of martial arts. My goal for my students, because I know the stats on how soon people wash out and how hard it is for people to stick to it. My goal is to be able to provide a curriculum that not only does not water down the martial arts, but provides enough of those beginner gains, per se, enough of that fundamental competency that they could walk into any gym and not be lost, right? I don't expect them to be able to walk into any gym and be the best guy there. That's an absurd thought and desire and belief. More, I just want anybody that comes in and spends a few months or a few years with me to walk out having a skill set and a competency that actually means something, that isn't just some forms and some static techniques, and that isn't just goon brawling. I want them to have that kind of intellectual, deeper understanding, but a functional skill around it. And I know that's a tall order, but that's my goal, right? That's my dream for this, right? So I have this kind of martial arts cultural dream and this also kind of personal school level instruction and student body level dream. And to that end, I know that I can't do this just being in my own head, right? And there's a limit to how much outreach I can do in the local community. So having the broader online community as a means to be able to bounce ideas and have discussions and whatnot will only help facilitate that. And I hope to be able to do the same in return for you, right? That's the entire point of having discourse and having debate and having good conversation. So that's my dream there. Now, the other thing, I said that I started this group for a couple of reasons. The other big reason that I started this is because, look, I've run a fairly sizable group on Facebook for almost a decade, and Facebook is a dying platform. Engagement is lower and lower all the time, and Facebook has become more and more censorious. And let's face it, what we talk about in martial arts often doesn't make it past those community guidelines filters. And the idea that X has become this kind of place for at least better freedom of speech, if not perfect, means that there's an opportunity here. And so anything that I can do to I don't want to pull people away from Facebook, but to get people that are interested in that over here, and this is a new feature on X at this point in time, And so there's fertile ground to be had, and we can build something that can be cool. And we're talking an entirely free floating voluntary coalition of independent schools and teachers and students that can just share ideas and get past some of this dogma and isolationism that has plagued martial arts for so long. And hopefully, look, humans are tribal by nature, but hopefully we can get past some of the more absurd tribalism and get to a better sense of market cooperation and competition, as opposed to like bitter rivalries. Let's have the rivalry in the cage. Let's have the rivalry in the ring, on the mats. Let's not have it in discourse, right? We don't need to sit here and belittle each other and all of that, right? My number one rule is, if it works, it's not wrong. And that is a very important piece of my philosophy and ideas on martial arts, right? There are certain things I teach, and I have a curriculum, and I have certain things, preferences and biases and ideas. But if what you're doing is working, ignore what I'm saying and keep doing what's working. That's how it goes. Just because I have a bias doesn't mean that my bias is correct. It just means that that's what makes sense to me. So welcome in, right? Just pay attention to the rules, right? So we can kind of keep this thing on course. But have some fun and have some good faith discourse. And hope to see you in there. Talk to you guys later. Good journey. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share. Check us out on our other socials, and please head over to blacksunboxing.com to get a little more info, including how to contact us. Furthermore, if you are in the Phoenix area, please feel free to stop in, say hi, join in for a class, whatever. Also, if you ever see us cite sources or just for additional content, please check out our Substack. That is where we put all of the sources we use in our videos and is a major part of this. Plus, it serves as a membership platform for long distance learning and for people who would like to support us but aren't local. We would greatly appreciate it if you signed up. Even just the free membership helps us out a lot. All right, I will see you guys in the next video. Good journey.